When that clock reaches 0, officer, you will not be arresting me. Someone else will be placing you under arrest. Marcus Reed spoke without raising his voice, even as Daniel Whitmore stood between him and the secure checkpoint at Jefferson International Airport. Around them, the morning crowd had slowed into a wide circle of uneasy faces. Business travelers paused beside rolling suitcases. Parents drew their children closer. A boarding announcement echoed beneath the high glass ceiling, but Marcus barely heard it. His eyes were fixed on the digital clock above Concourse C. 17 minutes remained. 17 minutes to deliver a sealed encryption device to a Pentagon liaison waiting beyond the federal access doors. 17 minutes before a protected operation involving stolen military intelligence began to unravel. Whitmore followed Marcus's gaze and laughed. To him, the man standing there was not Senior Chief Petty Officer Marcus Reed, a Black Navy SEAL trusted with classified missions and the lives of other service members. He saw only a black man in a charcoal jacket carrying a worn canvas bag through a lane Whitmore believed he did not belong in. That assumption had already shaped every question, every suspicious glance, and every order. You think one dramatic sentence is going to frighten me? Whitmore asked, making certain the crowd could hear him. Marcus remained still. His hands were secured behind him, but his posture had not changed. His shoulders stayed level. His breathing remained controlled. Years of training had taught him that panic wasted time, anger clouded judgment, and silence often encouraged arrogant men to reveal more than they intended. A few feet away, Noah Carter struggled to breathe. The young veteran had been traveling beside Marcus when Whitmore stopped them. Now Noah stood near a row of silver airport seats, his hands trembling as the uniforms, loud voices, and public attention pulled him toward memories he had spent months trying to escape. Marcus noticed immediately. He always noticed. Noah, he said calmly, never taking his eyes from Whitmore, focus on my voice. Breathe in for 4 seconds. Hold it. Breathe out 4. For seconds. Whitmore shook his head with a thin smile. You are in no position to give orders. But Marcus was not giving an order. He was helping a fellow serviceman remain standing while his own freedom disappeared minute by minute. That was the difference Whitmore could not understand. Real authority did not require an audience. Real strength did not become louder when challenged. Marcus glanced again at the clock. 16 minutes. Somewhere beyond the secure doors, a Department of Defense officer was waiting for a confirmation signal that had not arrived. Somewhere in Washington, a monitoring system was beginning to register a delay. Inside the canvas bag beneath Whitmore's hand, a biometric lock had already recorded unauthorized contact and transmitted its first silent warning. Whitmore believed he had stopped a suspicious traveler. He had no idea he had interrupted a federal transfer. He had no idea the airport cameras had captured every word. Most of all, he had no idea the countdown above Concourse C was no longer measuring how much time Marcus had left. It was measuring his own. 38 minutes earlier, Marcus Reed had entered Jefferson International Airport without attracting more than a passing glance. He wore a charcoal jacket over a plain black shirt, dark slacks, and polished shoes chosen for comfort rather than attention. No uniform, no medals, nothing that revealed the nearly 20 years he had spent serving in places most travelers would never hear about. Beside him walked Noah Carter, carrying a small backpack and watching the terminal with the careful alertness of someone still learning how to feel safe in ordinary spaces. The airport was already alive with movement. Coffee shops released the warm smell of roasted beans into the concourse. Suitcase wheels clicked across polished floors. Families hurried beneath glowing departure boards while business travelers spoke into phones and searched for their gates. To everyone else, it was a routine morning. To Marcus, every doorway, camera, uniform, and restricted corridor registered at once. He had been trained to notice what other people overlooked. A security officer speaking too, quietly into a radio. A man waiting too long beside an employee entrance. A surveillance camera angled slightly away from the lane it was meant to cover. Still, Marcus gave no sign of concern. The assignment depended on appearing ordinary. Inside the worn canvas bag at his side was a sealed encryption device containing evidence connected to stolen military intelligence. The device had to reach a Department of Defense liaison before the secure transfer window closed. If Marcus arrived on time, The investigation would continue without anyone inside the network realizing how close federal authorities had come. If he failed, the device would lock itself and transmit an emergency signal to Washington. The evidence would remain protected, but the people being investigated might understand that their operation had been exposed. Noah knew only part of the mission. He knew the device contained information that could identify those responsible. He knew his own testimony mattered. What he did not know was how many people had already tried to prevent that testimony from reaching the right office. "How are you holding up?" Marcus asked as they approached the priority screening lane. Noah nodded too quickly. "I am fine." Marcus glanced at him. "You do not have to be fine. You only have to keep moving." Noah released a slow breath and adjusted the strap of his backpack. Months earlier, he had been a communications specialist assigned to a military logistics unit. Now he was the witness whose records could connect altered access codes to a chain of illegal transfers. Marcus had found him isolated, exhausted, and convinced that telling the truth would destroy his future. Instead of treating him like evidence, Marcus treated him like a man worth protecting. That was why Noah trusted him. Ahead of them, a white businessman stepped through the checkpoint after the scanner sounded. Officer Daniel Whitmore glanced at the screen, waved him onward, and returned to his coffee. Then Marcus approached and presented his official courier authorization. Whitmore looked at the document, then at Marcus, and something subtle changed in his face. His eyes narrowed. His jaw tightened. "Where did you get this?" he asked. Marcus held his gaze. "It was issued to me." Whitmore examined the seal again, but not with professional caution. With disbelief. "People do not just walk in here carrying credentials like this." Marcus noticed the wording. "Not travelers. Not couriers. People." Noah shifted beside him, ready to speak, but Marcus gave the smallest shake of his head. The mission still had 29 minutes left, and Marcus believed patience might be enough. He did not yet know that Whitmore had already decided what kind of man stood before him. Whitmore held the courier authorization between two fingers as though the paper itself offended him. Behind Marcus and Noah, the screening line continued to grow, but the officer made no effort to move anyone forward. A mother with 2 children checked her watch. A college student lowered his phone just enough to watch. Near the inspection tables, Rachel Kim, an airport operations employee in a navy blazer, glanced toward Marcus and then toward the verification terminal only a few feet from Whitmore. She had worked at Jefferson International for 6 years. She knew the difference between professional caution and personal suspicion. What she saw in Whitmore was not caution. It was a conclusion he had reached before asking a single useful question. "Step out of the lane," Whitmore said. Marcus remained where he was. "My authorization includes a verification number. The federal desk can confirm it in less than a minute. I did not ask you how to do my job." Whitmore tapped the document against his palm. His voice remained controlled enough to sound official, but the contempt beneath it was impossible to miss. Marcus had heard that tone before. It was the voice of a man using procedure to disguise prejudice. Noah heard it too. His jaw tightened. "He told you exactly how to verify it," Noah said. Whitmore turned toward him. "And who are you supposed to be?" Marcus shifted his eyes toward Noah, offering a silent reminder to stay calm. Noah swallowed his anger. "I am traveling with him." "Then you can wait by the wall." Whitmore pointed toward a row of metal seats beside the security office. Marcus recognized the tactic immediately. Separate the traveler from the witness. Control the conversation. Replace facts with an official version before anyone could challenge it. "We remain together," Marcus said. Whitmore gave him a thin smile. "That is not your decision." He motioned to another officer near the scanner and spoke in a lower voice. But Marcus still heard the phrases fraudulent credentials and possible federal impersonation. The second officer looked uncertain. "Did you run the verification code?" he asked. Whitmore ignored the question. Instead, he moved toward an inspection counter where several unclaimed baggage tags rested inside a clear tray. His hand paused there for barely a second. Rachel saw it. Marcus saw Rachel notice it. Neither spoke. Not yet. Whitmore selected one tag and returned to the canvas bag. "Let us find out what you are really carrying," he said. Marcus looked toward the digital clock above Concourse C. 26 minutes remained. The liaison beyond the secure doors would wait until the final transfer window, but not beyond it. If Marcus missed that window, the encryption device would enter permanent protection mode and alert Washington. The evidence would remain secure, but anyone monitoring the compromised network could realize that the operation had been interrupted. "Officer Whitmore," Marcus said, "every choice you make here is being recorded." Whitmore followed his gaze toward the cameras and smiled with careless confidence. Then he placed the unclaimed tag beside Marcus's canvas bag and stepped back, arranging surprise across his face as though he had just discovered it. This tag was reported stolen. Noah stared at him. Rachel stopped breathing for a moment. Marcus remained still, but the calm in his eyes hardened into certainty. Whitmore had crossed from suspicion into fabrication, and he had done it beneath active cameras, before multiple witnesses, with a federal deadline already closing around him. Marcus understood then that patience alone would not resolve this. Whitmore had not merely chosen the wrong man to question. He had chosen to manufacture the answer. For one long second, no one moved. The terminal seemed to hold its breath beneath the steady hum of fluorescent lights and distant boarding announcements. Whitmore stood beside the planted tag with the confidence of a man who believed his badge could turn accusation into truth. Marcus looked at the tag, then at the nearest security camera mounted above the inspection lane. Its red indicator light was active. Recording. Whitmore noticed the glance and mistook it for fear. "You recognize this?" he asked. "I recognize what you just did," Marcus replied. The words were quiet, but they traveled through the silence. Rachel Kim lowered her eyes toward the floor, her pulse quickening. She had seen Whitmore remove the tag from the tray. She had seen him place it beside the bag. Speaking now could cost her job, but remaining silent could cost someone else far more. Whitmore turned toward the waiting passengers. "This man is being detained while we investigate possible theft and impersonation of a federal courier." A few travelers stepped back. Others raised their phones. Suspicion moved through the crowd faster than facts ever could. Marcus understood that pattern. First came the public accusation, then the distance, then the assumption that the badge must be telling the truth. "Call the Federal Verification Desk," Marcus said. "Confirm the authorization before you take another step." Whitmore folded the document and slipped it into his uniform pocket. "You do not decide procedure here. The procedure is printed on the document you just concealed." The second officer near the scanner looked toward Whitmore with growing unease. "Daniel, maybe we should run the code." Whitmore's expression hardened. "I have this under control." He called for additional airport police and described Marcus as uncooperative, even though Marcus had not raised his voice or moved from where he had been directed to stand. Two officers approached from the far end of the concourse. Their arrival changed the mood immediately. Conversation stopped. The open terminal began to feel smaller. Noah stared at the uniforms, his breathing becoming shallow. Marcus shifted his attention toward him. "Stay with me, Noah. Name 5 things you can see." Noah blinked. "The clock. The blue gate sign. The coffee shop. Your bag. The windows." "Good. Now name 4 things you can hear." Whitmore stepped between them. "Enough. Face the inspection table." Marcus complied slowly, not because Whitmore had earned obedience, but because Noah needed to see calm more than anger. The officers placed Marcus in handcuffs and moved the canvas bag several feet away. There was no struggle, no raised voice, only the quiet click of metal and the sudden whispers of strangers watching a black man transformed into a suspect by one officer's manufactured story. Whitmore leaned closer. "Still think Washington is coming to save you?" Marcus looked toward the clock. 22 minutes remained. "This is not about saving me," he said. "It is about what happens when they discover why I am late." At that moment, the biometric seal inside the canvas bag detected unauthorized handling. A silent signal left the terminal, crossed a protected military network, and reached a secure operations center in Washington. On a monitor beneath the words "Transfer Interrupted," Marcus Reed's identification appeared beside a flashing red alert. The countdown had finally become visible to someone with the authority to answer it. In Washington, the alert reached Commander Evelyn Brooks before the first minute had passed. She stood inside a secure Department of Defense operations room beneath rows of glowing monitors when Marcus Reed's name appeared beside the words "Transfer Interrupted." The room changed instantly. Conversation stopped. A communications specialist enlarged the signal trace while another officer confirmed the location. Jefferson International Airport. Concourse C. Unauthorized handling detected. Brooks did not react with panic. She reacted with precision. Marcus did not miss deadlines. He did not abandon equipment. He did not break communication unless something had prevented him from completing the mission. "Open the airport command channel," she said. Back at the terminal, Whitmore moved the canvas bag onto the inspection table while the crowd watched. Marcus remained in handcuffs several feet away, his posture steady despite the whispers moving through the concourse. Noah stood near the metal seats, repeating the breathing rhythm Marcus had given him. For seconds in, hold. For seconds out. His hands still trembled, but he remained standing. Marcus watched him carefully. Even in public humiliation, even with the transfer window closing, his attention stayed on the younger veteran. Whitmore noticed and gave a dismissive smile. "You should be worrying about yourself." Marcus answered without anger. "I know exactly what I am responsible for." Whitmore reached for the main zipper of the bag. "Then tell me what is inside." "Material you are not authorized to inspect." "That sounds like another threat." "It is a warning." The difference should have mattered. To Whitmore, it did not. He opened the outer compartment and removed a faded photograph. It showed 6 service members standing together beneath a pale desert sky. Their faces carried the quiet exhaustion of people who had survived something they would never fully explain. Marcus stood near the center, younger but unmistakable. Whitmore held up the photograph and laughed softly. "Anyone can pose in a uniform." Noah stared at him in disbelief. Rachel Kim lowered her phone behind the edge of the counter and began recording. She had already watched Whitmore plant the baggage tag. Now she understood that silence was no longer caution. It was participation. The radio on Whitmore's shoulder suddenly crackled. A dispatcher's voice came through with unusual urgency. "Officer Whitmore, step away from the canvas bag. Federal Command is requesting immediate contact." Whitmore pressed the transmit button. "I am conducting an active investigation. The instruction is to preserve the item and step away." Marcus looked toward the clock. 19 minutes remained. Whitmore glanced at the crowd, aware that everyone had heard the exchange. His pride made the decision before judgment could interfere. "Tell them they can wait." He switched off the radio. The second officer beside him stared. "Daniel, that was Federal Command." Whitmore ignored him and reached deeper into the bag. His fingers touched the cold surface of the sealed metal case. A narrow blue light appeared across its biometric lock. Then an alert flashed on the nearby security monitor. "Protected federal material. Unauthorized access. Preserve location." The Airport Operations Center responded immediately, pausing the checkpoint and sealing the nearby access doors while employees redirected passengers away from the area. A low warning tone moved through the terminal, controlled but impossible to ignore. Whitmore pulled his hand back. For the first time, uncertainty entered his face. Marcus raised his eyes and spoke with the same quiet authority he had carried from the beginning. "You were warned 3 times." The protected access doors closed with a soft mechanical sound, while airport employees guided travelers toward another checkpoint. The warning tone continued for several seconds, then stopped, leaving behind a silence that felt heavier than noise. Whitmore stood beside the open canvas bag, staring at the message on the security monitor. "Protected federal material. Unauthorized access. Preserve location." The words did not accuse him directly, but every person nearby understood that something had changed. Marcus remained in handcuffs several feet away, his breathing slow, his expression controlled. The second officer moved closer to Whitmore. "Daniel, do not touch anything else." Whitmore looked toward the crowd and saw phones raised in nearly every direction. His confidence did not disappear, but it began to fracture. "This is a routine security response," he announced. "Everyone needs to remain calm." Marcus glanced toward the clock above Concourse C. 18 minutes remained. "Routine security does not stop a federal transfer lane," he said. Whitmore turned toward him. "You do not speak unless I ask you a question." Marcus fell silent. He did not need to argue. The sealed doors, the frozen scanners, and the untouched verification terminal were already telling the story. Rachel Kim continued recording from behind the inspection counter. Her hand trembled, but she kept the camera steady. She captured the folded courier authorization inside Whitmore's pocket, the planted baggage tag beside the canvas bag, and the federal warning displayed in plain view. Then the public address. System interrupted the usual gate announcements. A calm voice filled the terminal. "Officer Daniel Whitmore, do not handle the protected item. Remain at your location and await federal investigators." Conversations stopped across the concourse. Whitmore looked up toward the ceiling speakers. Who authorized that announcement? No one answered him. In Washington, Commander Brooks watched live airport feeds appear across the operations room. One angle showed Marcus restrained. Another showed Noah near the metal seats, working to control his breathing. A third showed Whitmore standing over the open bag. Brooks studied the footage, then turned to a communications specialist. Confirm Senior Chief Petty Officer Reed's identity and mission status. Identity confirmed. Courier authorization confirmed. Transfer package remains secure. Check the local officer. A personnel file appeared on another screen. The first results showed complaints. Improper detention. Selective enforcement. Failure to preserve evidence. Several reports had been closed without complete review. Then a restricted intelligence flag appeared beside Whitmore's name. It linked his airport credentials to an existing investigation involving unauthorized access to military cargo schedules. Brooks leaned closer. The flag did not prove guilt, but it changed the situation from misconduct to possible interference with a defense investigation. Notify the Defense Criminal Investigative Service, she said. Preserve every camera feed and restrict access to the scene. Back inside the terminal, Noah looked toward Marcus. What is happening? Marcus kept his voice low. People with the authority to verify the truth are finally paying attention. Whitmore heard him. You think you planned this? No, Marcus replied. You did. The words were quiet, but Whitmore seemed to feel them. His radio activated through an emergency override. Officer Whitmore, surrender your airport access card to the responding supervisor and step away from the evidence table. Whitmore reached toward the radio, but the second officer raised a hand. Daniel, do not make this worse. The other officers were no longer positioned. Beside Whitmore, they were watching him. Rachel stepped out from behind the counter, holding her phone in front of her. I recorded what happened, she said. Whitmore's face changed. Marcus looked toward the clock once more. 17 minutes remained. Then he met Whitmore's eyes. When that clock reaches 0, officer, you will not be arresting me. Someone else will be placing you under arrest. The first federal investigator entered Concourse C before Whitmore could answer. Agent Thomas Hale moved through the restricted checkpoint in a dark suit, carrying a tablet and wearing the controlled expression of a man who had already seen enough to know the situation was no longer routine. 2 airport supervisors followed him, along with a security technician who went directly to the camera control station. Whitmore straightened as though their arrival confirmed his authority. Agent, I detained a suspicious traveler carrying fraudulent credentials and protected material, he said. Hill did not respond immediately. He looked at Marcus, then at the handcuffs, then at the open canvas bag on the inspection table. Who authorized you to open that bag? Whitmore hesitated. I was acting under airport security procedure. That was not my question. The concourse fell silent again. Hale extended his hand. Give me the courier authorization. Whitmore's eyes shifted toward his uniform pocket. It was a small movement, but Rachel saw it, the second officer saw it, and the passengers nearest the checkpoint saw it. Whitmore removed the folded document and handed it over. Hale opened it carefully and scanned the verification code with his tablet. A green confirmation appeared within seconds. Senior Chief Petty Officer Marcus Reed, Hale said. United States Navy. Official Department of Defense Courier Authorization. Mission status active. A murmur moved through the crowd. Whitmore's face tightened. The system could have been compromised. Hale turned toward the security technician. Show me the footage beginning 5 minutes before the detention. The nearest monitor changed. The recording showed Marcus and Noah entering the lane. It showed the white businessman ahead of them being waved through after the scanner sounded. It showed Whitmore examining Marcus's authorization. Then it showed his hand reaching into the tray of unclaimed baggage tags. The image was clear. He selected one, returned to Marcus's bag, and placed it beside the canvas. No explanation could erase what the camera had captured. Rachel stepped forward and held out her phone. I recorded the rest, she said. He refused to verify the document, ignored the federal warning, and opened the bag after being told to preserve it. Hale accepted the phone. Whitmore looked toward the other officers, but they had moved several feet away from him. This is being taken out of context, he said. I was protecting the airport. Marcus raised his eyes. From what? A document you refused to verify, or a man you decided did not belong here? Whitmore opened his mouth, but the secure doors behind Hale unlocked before he could answer. Three Defense Criminal Investigative Service agents entered and stopped beside the evidence table. Commander Brooks appeared on a secure monitor mounted above the checkpoint, live from the operations room in Washington. Her image filled the screen, composed and unmistakably authoritative. "Remove the handcuffs from Senior Chief Reed immediately," she said. The nearest supervisor obeyed. Marcus brought his hands forward but made no display of anger. He went first to Noah. "You stayed with the breathing count," he said. Noah nodded, his eyes wet but steady. "I tried. You succeeded." Then Marcus faced the screen. Brooks offered a formal salute. Marcus returned it. Every whisper in the terminal stopped. "Senior Chief Reed," she said, "your identity and mission authority have been confirmed. The Department of Defense apologizes for this unlawful interruption." Whitmore stared at the screen as the truth stripped away the story he had created. Brooks continued, "But your conduct is not the only matter under review, Officer Whitmore. Your name was already connected to an active investigation involving unauthorized access to military cargo schedules." The countdown above Concourse C showed 14 minutes. Marcus was free. Whitmore was not yet under arrest, but for the first time that morning, he understood that the investigation had turned toward him. 14 minutes remained when Agent Hale placed his tablet on the inspection table and turned the screen toward Whitmore. A list of restricted access events appeared beneath the officer's name, each connected to military cargo information that had passed through Jefferson International during the previous 6 months. Whitmore stared at the records, then forced a dismissive breath. "Shift schedules do not prove anything." Commander Brooks remained visible on the secure monitor. "No, they do not. But altered camera logs, unauthorized badge entries, and encrypted messages sent from an airport terminal create questions that federal investigators are prepared to ask." One of the Defense Criminal Investigative Service agents opened a sealed evidence folder. Inside were access reports linking Whitmore's airport credentials to secure shipping routes that had later appeared in communications recovered from a private contractor. The investigation had been moving quietly for weeks. Marcus and Noah had entered the airport carrying the encrypted records needed to identify the final connection. Whitmore had not known exactly what was inside the metal case, but he had recognized Noah. Marcus understood at the moment the evidence appeared. He remembered Whitmore's effort to separate them, his refusal to contact the federal desk, and the speed with which he had invented a reason to delay the transfer. "You were not trying to stop a suspicious traveler," Marcus said. "You were trying to prevent the witness from reaching Washington." Noah looked at Whitmore, confusion slowly turning into recognition. "I have seen you before," he said. His voice was quiet, but the terminal had become so still that everyone heard him. 3 months ago, near the military cargo office." Whitmore's expression changed for less than a second. "It was enough." Noah continued, "You were speaking with the contractor who gave my unit the altered access codes. I did not know your name then." Agent Hale stepped closer to Noah. "Are you certain about what you saw?" Noah looked toward Marcus. Marcus did not answer for him or tell him what to say. He simply stood beside him, giving the younger veteran space to make the choice himself. Noah drew one controlled breath. "Yes, I am certain." Rachel handed her phone to the security technician, who copied the recording into federal evidence. The planted baggage tag, the concealed authorization, and every ignored warning were preserved. Whitmore looked toward the airport officers around him, but no one moved to defend him. His badge still reflected the overhead lights, yet it no longer controlled the room. A message appeared on Hale's tablet. He read it, then faced the lead investigator. "Federal prosecutors have reviewed the preliminary evidence. We have probable cause to take Officer Whitmore into custody for obstruction of a defense investigation, fabrication of evidence, unlawful detention, and suspected involvement in unauthorized access to military information." The words came without anger, which made them feel heavier. Whitmore lowered his voice. "This is a misunderstanding. I was doing my job." Brooks held his gaze from the screen. "Your job was to protect the public, not protect your secrets." The agents instructed Whitmore to surrender his badge, radio, and airport access card. He placed each item on the same metal table where he had opened Marcus's bag. The sound of the badge touching the surface was small, almost ordinary, but the entire concourse seemed to hear it. An agent informed Whitmore of his rights and placed him under arrest. There was no spectacle and no retaliation. Only procedure, witnesses, and the quiet reversal of authority. Marcus watched without satisfaction. For him, justice was not another man's humiliation. It was the moment truth became impossible to bury. Hale checked the clock. 11 minutes remained. Can the transfer still be completed? Marcus placed his hand against the biometric lock. The amber light turned blue. Yes. The secure doors reopened, the mission resumed, and behind him, Whitmore was escorted through the same terminal where he had believed one false accusation could erase another man's dignity. 11 minutes remained when Marcus and Noah passed through the reopened security doors with Agent Hale beside them. The terminal slowly returned to motion, but the atmosphere had changed. Travelers lowered their phones. Airport employees resumed their positions. Boarding announcements returned beneath the high glass ceiling. Yet no one who had witnessed the scene could pretend the morning had been ordinary. Marcus carried the canvas bag in one hand while Noah walked beside him, quieter now, but steadier. They reached a private federal transfer room near the far end of Concourse C, where two Department of Defense officers verified the biometric seal and accepted the encrypted case. The confirmation signal reached Washington with 6 minutes to spare. A green light appeared on the secure terminal. Mission complete. Marcus signed the transfer record, then turned and found Noah standing near a wide window overlooking the runway. Aircraft moved slowly across the pale morning light, their engines humming beyond the glass. "You made it," Marcus said. Noah shook his head. "You made it. I almost fell apart back there." Marcus stepped beside him. "You stayed. You spoke. You identified the man you saw near the cargo office. That is not falling apart." Noah looked down at his hands. "I was terrified." "Courage is not the absence of fear," Marcus said. "It is deciding that the truth matters more than the fear." For the first time that morning, Noah seemed willing to believe him. In the weeks that followed, the investigation expanded beyond Jefferson International. Federal agents recovered altered shipping records, hidden payments, and encrypted communications connecting airport personnel to a contractor accused of selling restricted military routing information. Whitmore's conduct was examined in court, where camera footage showed every choice he had made. The planted baggage tag, the concealed courier authorization, the ignored federal instructions, the attempt to separate Marcus from Noah. His own actions became the evidence he had believed his badge could erase. The review also reopened 12 complaints filed against him over 5 years. Men and women who had once been dismissed as confused, angry, or unreliable were invited to speak again. This time, investigators listened. Rachel Kim testified about what she had witnessed and helped establish a new airport policy requiring immediate federal verification whenever protected credentials were presented. Agent Hale led an internal review of previous detentions. Commander Brooks recommended stronger safeguards for military couriers and protected witnesses traveling through civilian airports. Marcus declined every request for a public interview. He did not want praise for remaining calm. He wanted people to understand why he had been forced to remain calm in the first place. Months later, Marcus returned to Jefferson International with Noah. The young veteran was no longer traveling as a frightened witness. He had accepted a position helping other service members report misconduct without facing the system alone. Near Concourse C, they passed the same inspection lane where everything had happened. Noah looked toward the clock above the terminal. "Do you ever think about what he did to you?" he asked. Marcus paused. "I think about everyone he did it to before someone finally believed them." Noah nodded slowly. The answer stayed with him. Whitmore had believed power was the right to make another man feel small. Marcus understood something deeper. Power was protecting the truth when revealing it carried a cost. Power was helping a frightened man find his voice. Power was refusing to let humiliation become hatred. A badge had controlled the room for a few minutes. Dignity changed what happened after everyone left.